Hey guys, what's going on? Andrew coming at you. In this one we're talking about what does it mean to be Swedish. That's coming up. First of all, I just want to say welcome to a bunch of my new subscribers here. I'm so happy to have you on this journey with me. And if you're new and you're following it, feel free to go ahead and subscribe and hit that notification bell if you would like. So my girlfriend and I were talking, and she basically said that her mother says that I'm basically a Swede. And I've heard a lot of people kind of say that now. And I work in an environment where I'm mostly working with other Swedes, and everything is like in Swedish now. So I was coming up with a list. I come up with 5 things that I believe make someone Swedish. I was thinking about Swedish identity because obviously, like, I'm not originally from Sweden, but what are some of the things that makes me Swedish that kind of makes all of us Swedish? We talk about these cultural things, so I'm going into it. Number 1 is definitely something that's changed with me that I wasn't originally, and that's that I'm reserved. I'm reserved and quiet. When I first came to Sweden, I was much louder, and I think that just is due to the fact that, like Americans, we just tend to talk loud. Maybe it's just English speakers in general, but when one person is finishing a sentence, another one is beginning, so we start talking over each other, and it just generally gets louder. One of the biggest culture shocks I always have going back to the States is how loud everything is. You really notice when you're in Sweden that when people talk and when you just walk around, it's very, very quiet for the most part. Train stations, buses, people just don't talk at that same type of level, so I didn't realize how quiet it is. And I've become more quiet myself. Even when I speak English, I tend to not speak as loud, and I'm definitely a lot more reserved. I've always been someone that's been having anxiety and dealing with that, but I just find that I'm shy in general. I don't talk to a lot of people that I don't know. I don't small talk with a lot of people that I don't know, and I just kind of keep to myself. I usually don't talk to my neighbors and things like that, for example. And although that can be like a negative thing, I kind of don't mind it so much. It's something that I just kind of accept being in Sweden. I still find that Swedes are very, very nice. We're nice people. We're just shy and reserved, that's all. And that's just kind of something I developed, which I didn't have in the beginning. And I look back at how I used to be to now, and it's okay. It's just a part of the process of adapting to a new country. Number 2 has to be weather. Like, I definitely, and Swedes definitely we revolve around the sun in a lot of ways and how the sun works. So basically when it's a nice day outside, everybody's outside and happy. When it's dark, we kind of feel bad. But talking about not doing a lot of small talk and things like that, if you don't know anybody, the best thing that you can talk about is the weather. I've done that so many times now in Sweden. If I don't know what to say, especially because my Swedish might be limited, I can sit down and talk to someone about the weather, and it kind of just breaks the uncomfortable silence in a sense. Like I could be talking to a repairman that's fixing something in my apartment or something like that, and we just talk about the weather for a second. We talk about the summer. That's a nice thing, getting back. Oh, how was the summer? Oh, it was very, very warm. We talk about the fires and things like that going on. So it's an interesting thing. I work in an environment where sometimes I can be outside, and I'm telling you, I'm super happy. But I find in the winter I get really, really down, and I think that's normal. I just tried Langskidor or cross-country skiing last year, and I really enjoyed it because I'm a runner. I actually just got back from a run. So I'm going to go ahead and continue with that, I think, this year, because I think it's healthy to have an outside activity, but definitely revolving around the summer. I mean, they even have a week off in Sweden to basically go skiing. Number 3 that I put on here is a belief of taking care of each other. This is a big belief that it seems like no matter who you talk to in Sweden, there's a big collective responsibility and belief in providing a quality education to everybody, if possible, like a quality education. I know there's a teacher shortage right now, but quality education and free university. If you know, keeping a free university, I know you have to take money out for living expenses, but you don't have to actually pay for the classes and things like that. And also making sure every kid in school gets a free lunch. I think that's a very important one. And just the strong social benefits that Sweden has. And it's a collective belief that I think that Swedes kind of feel responsible for each other was an interesting concept. And there really is a belief there that everybody should be taken care of. I just saw a news article talking about how it's very expensive for some to get a driver's license, if I read the news report right, and that they're actually going to try to loan people the money to make it a little bit easier for them to spend the money to take the driver courses and the lessons to get back so that everybody has a chance to get a driver's license. So this is the kind of things I see on the news and reports that people talk about in Sweden, and it is just kind of collective responsibility belief. And when you start to believe that way, you're definitely becoming a lot more Swedish. Number 4 that I'm going to put on this list is a definite love of nature, but also taking care of the environment. The buses here run on biofuel. And one of the biggest things I noticed from America to coming here is how much more people recycle. If you go to a cafeteria, there's always like a place. If you go to a cafeteria in schools and stuff like that, there's always a place to put your food. And at your homes, you have special bags that you can put your food trash in, which then the buses run on, which is just, I think, super cool all the way around. So the buses are running on a much more like clean energy. If you drive around anywhere in Sweden, you're always going to see the windmills everywhere going. And people in general have less of an economic footprint. I would say an average family, there's one car, probably 1 to 2 cars per every family. So we could say probably an average is like 1.5 cars. Also, I don't own a car right now. Maybe I hope to at some point in the future, but I'm able to get by on a bus fine, and that's kind of nice too, because I feel like that's a little bit better for the environment as well. I find the air cleaner. It's safe to drink the water in Sweden as well. And so there's just this big belief in love of nature. And the one thing I also like about that love of nature is the Allemansrätt law, which just basically says that all Swedes kind of share the nature. And it's always an interesting concept to me coming from America to hear, because in America, you know, you can own land, and you can own land in Sweden, of course, too, but like people still have the right maybe to camp. I'm not saying like outside your house, but if you own land and property, they still have the right to go out there, camp. They have to clean up after themselves. But it's interesting because really, if you think about it, how can you own like nature and land? Like, it really should be something that we can all share and enjoy. Everybody should have their house, of course. I'm not going crazy, but like, we should share things that are beautiful and take care of it together. And I kind of like that concept. Number 5 definitely has to be Fika. And Fika is just a way of life here in Sweden. That probably is the biggest one, but that's mostly with like Nordic countries in general, which is the ritual of Fika. If you go to work, if you're hanging out with your friends, at some point you're going to sit down, have a coffee or tea, and maybe a treat, maybe a sandwich with some cheese on it, and talk. And I really love the concept of this, because a lot of times for me, coffee used to mean like stress. Like, I'm drinking a coffee and I'm rushing off on my way to work. Maybe I'm going to the Starbucks, I'm grabbing the coffee, I'm in the line, I'm like, come on, let's go, let's go, let's go. And then I'm trying to get to work on time so I'm not late. And here, I just love the concept of sitting down, having a coffee, taking 15, 20 minutes, chillaxing, talking to your colleagues. And again, if I don't know what to say, I'm talking about the weather, and just relaxing. It's an important time. I like it because you get a chance to talk to your colleagues or your friends, and it's also important to have some quiet time. I'm someone that really enjoys running. Like, I just got back from a run today, and that's a way to quiet my brain. But sometimes I think you need, when you're working on a project or doing something and you're stuck, you need to take the time to kind of decompress and not think about things. I think you actually tend to do better at working on things. A lot of people go to work in jobs, but I still think we can find ways to waste time, whether it's people on the phone or Facebook or something like that. So actually taking a couple short breaks throughout the day, I think that's a better way to be productive in a lot of ways, because you're able to take some time away from a project and then come back to it. So Fika is definitely a way of life. If you ever want to see people in Sweden very, very upset, it's either going to be they run out of coffee in the workroom or they ran out of milk. Those are 2 times where I feel like it's definitely an emergency in Sweden. So guys, I really hoped you enjoyed my list on what it means to be Swedish. This would be my big one if you're becoming into the Swedish culture. I think these 5 things are very, very important. I think if you live in Sweden and you kind of focus on these things, these 5 belief systems, I think this is what makes Sweden great. I think it would be great if more people kind of felt that way. Maybe not the reserved and quiet one, because, I mean, it's okay for other countries not to have it. I'm not saying be reserved and quiet is awesome, but it's just something that we do. So go ahead and write in the comments what I missed on this one. If you like this one, you like the kind of content I'm bringing out there, go ahead and hit that thumbs up button, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.